So good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Shalia Reed. I'm the Chief Communications Officer. Today, we are happy to have, it looks like 563 employees from across the district who are either on contract, not on contract, thinking about coming back, ready to come back, missing our faces. But today, we just want to use this hour to share with you our Return to Learn plan. Those faces that you can see are panelists. They are district administrators who are responsible for helping us navigate these uncharted waters. And as I mentioned earlier, as you're getting on, you'll notice that this is a different format. This is a webinar format. So you may not be able to see your mute or your video button, but you should see a Q&A at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions throughout, just know that the people on the panel are working very hard to answer those questions. And then at the end, what we will do is we will read some of those back of those who may not have been answered so that everyone can get clarity. And then as I said, our goal is to post these online on our district website so that anyone who wasn't able to get in or missed some things, they'll be able to see them. We have 2 more of these scheduled, and we'll do the same for those. So thank you, and we'll get started right away with our superintendent, Dr. Latanya.
Wow, I see the number is still climbing, Shalia. It's over 600 of our Aldine faithful. And if we were in the same place, in the same auditorium, of course, I would start by saying, good afternoon, Aldine, good afternoon. Seriously, we have so much to be excited about, to be thankful for, even in light of the circumstances outside of our control. Many of us know people and families who've been touched. And so if we can get on this call at this time and take this hour to learn about how we're going to be continuing to move forward, then surely that's something to be thankful for. You know, each time I've done these, I've reflected back, because March 6th will forever just be a date that I remember, because March 6th, we celebrated our Teachers of the Year. HR and Communications pulled off an amazing event. Are there any Teachers of the Year on this call? Congratulations again. We're excited that to continue to celebrate you and looking forward to your work this upcoming year. But it was after we finished the celebration that the reality of COVID-19 hit, and it hit hard. And I'm so thankful based on the work of our health service department and our leaders that we had a situation and it was taken care of. But at that moment, we realized that this COVID-19 that had hit everywhere else in the world already was on its way, and it was real. I'll always be thankful for how our leaders gave up their entire spring breaks in order to think about how we were going to transition possibly back to school. At that time, we thought we were coming back. We thought we were going to extend for a couple of days and come back. We were going to encourage hand washing and go from there. But then when we saw that it wasn't going to go away like it hadn't gone away in Italy and other areas, we knew we had to do something different. And for that, we had to educate differently. And I'm so thankful to our teaching and learning department who stood up our at-home learning website and did an amazing job. And remember, we extended to spring break by a week, and then we extended until April, and we extended to the rest of the year eventually once the order came from the governor. And so we were excited for May. We were thankful. The goal was to bend the curve, and it seemed like it was bending. We were optimistic. We were planning we postponed graduation based on some feedback from our seniors. We thought by July, surely, we would be planning for something different. If you go to the next slide, please. So in May, when we were thinking about return to learn, we were thinking that our students were going to be coming back and we were going to be providing intervention. Next slide, please. we thought that our students were going to be coming back, and I'm sure Dr. Davis probably grins because I remember a very involved conversation about how we were going to provide intervention, how we're going to make up for the COVID slide, how we were going to do things in order to make up for that learning loss. And we were evaluating how we were going to meet our students' needs, because honestly, we thought that right now, July 23rd, that we will be planning for coming back to school. So if you'll think about it though, in May, when we launched our Return to Learn plan, the core team came up with this one main guiding principle, which was we will reopen our buildings as fast as we can, but as slow as we must. And so the conditions have to exist in order for us to come back. So in May, we were optimistic and thought that because the curve was bending, that we would be coming back at this time. However, the conditions have changed. And in every single presentation, everything you've heard me say or anyone on our team say, we have emphasized the fact that we're going to prioritize safety. Safety is paramount, and that the safety that we're concerned about is the safety of our families and our students for sure, but we have to make sure that our staff is safe and our teachers are safe. And so we certainly have led, and as we thought about how we're going to return with safety in mind, and you're going to hear more about some of the precautions and plans that we have in place. However, we also know that learning is important. And so the name of our plan is Return to Learn. So no matter if we are in a learning at home or we're learning at school, learning is ultimately the goal. So what we did in the spring was a result. We had to move fast. We had to basically, it was about keeping our students engaged as much as possible. But now learning is the main focus. It's the only focus. It's the ultimate goal. Because keep in mind, we only get paid if students are learning. And so whether they're learning at school or they're learning at home, learning is paramount as well. Also, we worked collaboratively. We didn't go into a room or a Zoom and come up with fancy plans, and people all across the world, really, all across the world, all across our nation, all across our state, all across our city, they're planning to return, and they have these amazing plans. But those plans work for their communities. They don't necessarily or may not work for our community. So throughout this entire process, as we've engaged numerous stakeholders from all parts of the district, the main goal as we think about our new way forward is what is best for Aldine ISD. No one else, just Aldine ISD. So I'm sure you're reading different things. I'm sure you are hearing different things. Many of you may have children in other places or spouses in other spaces, but ultimately the decisions that are being made in Aldine are in your best interest as an employee, as a staff member, as a beloved teacher, and our students. Now, the one thing that you have to also keep in mind is everything's always changing. We announced that we were going to go completely remote for the first 3 weeks. The next day, some other guidance came out from the county. The next day, some other guidance came out from TEA. Well, we can't react to everything really, really quick. So right now the plan is, the conditions as they are, the 3 weeks, but recognizing that we have that flexibility, there may be other announcements that are coming. So each meeting, you're going to hear the information as timely as possible, but recognizing that we are in uncharted times and we have no way of knowing what the future holds. However, these core beliefs are what are keeping us grounded, and the best interest of our students and staff is what's keeping us focused. And last but certainly not least, we're going to align every single decision based on our strategic priorities, period. I told you learning, that strategic priority 1 is student achievement. Without student achievement as a focus, without student achievement as a goal, then we have nothing. So student achievement. Number 2, school culture. Super proud of the work that is being considered and put in place, so as whether our students are virtual or face-to-face, and whether you are virtual or face-to-face, how we're going to support. Of course, mission-driven leadership. We know during a crisis, leadership matters, and you've seen that. And of course, number 4 is always thinking about organizational efficiency. We're looking at it different during a pandemic, what that efficiency looks like. And then, of course, communication and community engagement is, of course, one of the most important, which is why we have you on this town hall today. And so you're going to hear about 5 different things today. I think we're going to begin with instructional. Next slide. The instructional models, you've heard about them, but you're going to hear our Chief Academic Officer explain them. The registration process, which has gone off really well. Our parents have committed and responded, and very proud of that. Some of our health and safety protocols, and of course, our continued communications. And so we have about an hour, and so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Todd Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Goffney. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I'm really excited to take just a few moments to explain our instructional models, and what we're going to provide for you today is a broad overview of the models, and I want to guarantee you that there is specific details being built out to give clarity for you and the expectations of our learning models, and of course, professional learning will be provided. A full scope, a robust offering of professional learning will be provided, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So let's look at our 2 models of instruction that we're providing for our students. Of course, when we do have an opportunity to come back to campus, we will provide both learning on campus and learning at home. Now, as you all know, the first 3 weeks, we are all learning at home. We're all providing teaching from home, and it is all virtual. But it is important to know that when we do have the opportunity for both options, that there are commonality between the 2 options. So before I get into the commonalities, I do want to explain just 1 or 2 aspects of our virtual model. Our virtual model is an asynchronous model. That means that our students will have the opportunity to engage with content, engage with learning every single day at the time that is appropriate for them. These are opportunities that are not live opportunities, but again, uploaded into Schoology. It potentially could be broadcast, but it is important that we provide these opportunities at the time that is best for our students and our teachers and our parents to engage in the learning. Now, there are expectations for small doses of synchronous learning, and that is going to be in the form of small group instruction every day, and I will explain that in a moment. But again, in large part, it is an asynchronous model, but there are commonalities, though, in our asynchronous model with the learning on campus model. And it's important to note that our curriculum and our assessment schedules will not change. The curriculum that is articulated in Aldine remains in place, and the expectations for learning, the progression of learning, does not change for our students. And most certainly, the rigor of instruction does not change for our students. Our assessment schedule will remain the same. Now, it's important to note that our assessments will all be online beginning this fall, and ideally, hopefully, as we continue in Aldine for years to come. Grading guidelines and policies. You know in the spring that we had to revise our grading policies. That is then. This is now. We are back to our standard grading policies, and students will, of course, need to follow those guidelines to be promoted, to gain credit, to go to graduation, things like that. Daily attendance is expected every single day for our students, and we will be marking attendance every day for our students as they engage in their schoolwork and Schoology, and we'll provide a considerable guidance around those practices. 504, special ed, processes and procedures for our English learners. Those will all remain in place. Much like we did in the spring, we'll continue those support structures as we move into the fall. And then, of course, we need to make sure that our student privacy is held at the highest level, and we'll make sure that we uphold that, and there are guidelines that will be in place for those standards. Next, let's get in a little bit deeper in terms of our expectations as educators, and more specifically, our expectations as a teacher. I'm going to focus primarily on the learning at home because that is for all of us, as I said already. But let me touch base quickly on the learning on campus. We will continue our traditional model of teaching and learning when we get back to school. There's one piece, though, that we will be asking of our teachers, and that is to continue to maintain their Schoology course, even as an on-campus teacher, and to still have students engaged in their Schoology course and provide feedback at least once a week in that Schoology course. This is our attempt to ensure that we have a blended model in our learning on campus, so that if we ever have to move or transition from all virtual to on campus and then potentially back to all virtual, that we have the conditions and the support structures in place for that transition, for those transitions to be seamless. Now, when we look at the expectations for teachers at home, now again, this is all of us, that our responsibility, when we look at all the feedback that we receive from teachers, from administrators, from parents, and most importantly from students, we knew that we had to create structures that ensured that our students had daily activity and daily interaction with their students, or excuse me, with their teachers. And that feedback that is provided daily by the teachers is so critical to make sure that we have learning progression at the level we need it to happen. So our learning at home teachers, you all will be responsible for building and maintaining Schoology coursework every single day. And in addition, your daily responsibilities will be the recording of instruction that will be uploaded into Schoology, as well as corresponding Schoology activities. Every day, we must provide small group synchronous instruction for our students. That will be scheduled into your daily routine, and it will be an opportunity for you to interact with small groups of students who are struggling in the virtual environment, that need additional support, but need that in a synchronous, in a live manner. That will be part of every teacher's daily responsibilities. In addition to that, we know that it's important for our parents and our students to be able to connect with you on a one-to-one basis. So we'll be scheduling in 2 office hour periods for you every day. You'll have a morning and an afternoon office hour of a minimum of 60 minutes. This again gives our students and our parents the opportunity to schedule meetings with you, to have the opportunity to talk with you just for a few moments, just to make sure that we're connecting every day with our students. But again, what is most important, and that leads us to the next slide, is that we're providing feedback to our students every single day. As I mentioned, learning doesn't happen if we don't provide in time, relevant, instructive feedback to our students. And at Learning on Campus, we know that that happens every day. Those expectations don't change. Other than, of course, like I mentioned, that we will be doing feedback through Schoology, maintain that blended environment. But what is most important, and which is one of the most significant changes from what we provided in the spring to what will be provided in the fall, is that we expect daily feedback via Schoology from teacher to student every day. Now that would be feedback through your lessons, through your activities. That also is feedback, of course, as I mentioned, through the small group instruction, and then ideally through the teacher office hours every day. So that is an assurance that we're providing for our students and our parents, that that feedback is going to be there for them every day. We have a moral imperative, all of us, to make sure that we are providing the highest quality instruction for our students, no matter what environment that they're in. And again, feedback is critical to that. Now, another important aspect of our learning models is that attendance expectation. That's our next slide. That instructional minutes and attendance, there is still levels of expectations on both ends of our models, and both require that, of course, attendance is taken every day. In the traditional setting, that is not anything unlike what we've ever done. But now in the learning at home model, there are attendance markers that the state has outlined for us to be able to gauge whether or not a student is present in their virtual learning, and that we'll be able to mark the student present and then continue to receive the funding as we have normally done. The markers that we will be looking for every day to mark a student present would be daily progress in Schoology. Are they logging in? Are they spending time in Schoology? Are they making progress via teacher-student interaction? Or are they turning in assignments? And when these markers are accomplished, then again, at the end of every day, teachers will be able to mark their students present. We are also hoping to build a system where that learning can extend all the way till almost midnight, 11:59. Another attendance marking being taken by our student services at that point. So that allows our parents and our students to work past 3 o'clock, because we know that many of our parents work during the day and they want to be able to support their students, their children, when they get home from work. And so we're going to make sure that that is embedded within our system. And next, I think that takes one last plug that I'd like to say in terms of our models is that we have professional learning opportunities available for you now. There are self-paced learning opportunities that have been provided to the principals that they can get to you quickly. Beginning next week, we have more face-to-face, virtually face-to-face learning opportunities that will be provided for you. And as you're considering who will be a virtual teacher and who won't, I'm going to tell you that one of the first pieces of information a principal will make in that decision is, our students, our teachers engaging in learning now? Are they improving their skill set as a virtual teacher and putting themselves into position to be successful when you start day one? But again, I encourage you to participate in these learnings, and we will provide all the support that we can to make sure that we begin August 17th as successful as possible.
Good afternoon. So I'm just going to spend just a little bit of time talking about our registration process. So as Dr. Davis mentioned, there are two options for our students to select from. Those two options being learning at home or learning on campus. Over the past week and a half, we've worked with parents to ensure that they have made a selection for their child. We are happy to report that after that week and a half, we have had approximately 88% of our students make a selection for their learning model. Right now, we're sitting at about 71% of our students who have selected to learn at home, and that be that virtual model. The other 29% have selected to learn on campus. As you've read, we will begin the first 3 weeks of instruction remotely, regardless of the model that the student has selected. I can tell you right now, our student services team is working along with the campuses to ensure that students are scheduled into the appropriate model before the first day of school.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dawn. As we think about the health and safety of our buildings and our student and staff members, please know that we are working diligently to ensure that the necessary systems and protocol are in place so that all of our staff members and students can safely transition back into the workplace. So with that being said, I'm going to share some of the different safety measures that we have implemented to ensure that that will take place. As you all know, PPE, that acronym is being used quite frequently now. And what does that mean? What will that mean for us? What will that mean for you and our campuses? So personal protective equipment will be provided by the district as it relates to a face covering. As you all know, all staff members and students will be required to wear a face covering. The district will provide a reusable face covering to staff members. Gloves, sanitizer, and disinfectant will also be a part of the campus inventory, if you will. Though gloves will be provided, please know that gloves are not a substitute for hand washing. As such, gloves will not be available for you to wear or us to wear on a daily basis. They should be used as necessary, because we want to make certain that we are using those 20 seconds or taking those 20 seconds multiple times throughout the day to appropriately wash and cleanse our hands. As you transition back into the workplace, you will start to see different types of signage to promote safe and healthy workplace practices. You can see there to the right just one of the signs that we have put in throughout the buildings that make you aware of what you can do to help prevent the spread of COVID. On the next slide, you will see some other signage that will be visible throughout the buildings, from the entryway to the cafeteria, if you will. Again, notifications and signs to let you know that if you are feeling sick, to stay at home. And as we're dealing with little ones and some of our older learners, the importance of teaching social distancing and showing them where to stand and where to sit, all of that directional signage will be at the campuses, and the campus redesign teams are working now to come up with plans to ensure that the signage is in its necessary places, but also to ensure that systems are in place to be able to welcome students and staff back into the workplace in a safe way. Moving forward, as we think about the other health and safety precautions that are being put in place, the district has implemented an enhanced cleaning regimen. That means that you think about the high touch areas, the door handles, the stairway handles, all of those areas that sometimes we forget that we touch frequently, the bathroom door handle. There has been an enhanced cleaning regimen put in place to ensure that our custodial team is cleaning those areas frequently. We are using an EPA approved disinfectant to help cleanse our areas. Also, we've invested in what we call disinfectant misters. These are machines, if you will, that are used to clean large spaces. They can clean a large square footage of space in a short amount of time, but most importantly, it's disinfecting the buildings in a faster and better way. I've already mentioned the social distancing recommendations and signage that's going to be throughout our buildings and our facilities, and the importance of all of us understanding that face coverings will be required. In some instances, a face shield may be more appropriate. As I was looking at some of the questions in the chat that we are working fervently to answer, there was a question specifically about face shields, and students, perhaps it would be more appropriate for this, especially some of our younger learners who need to see facial expressions and whatnot to wear a face shield. So those sort of considerations are of course being looked at, and making certain that our campuses have those necessary tools will be our priority as well. Other workplace modifications that are taking place include the installation of plexiglass or sneeze guards. And what that is, if you've been to the store or any other, the gas station, if you ever go inside, there's a clear shield, if you will, that's been set up in many stores or locations to protect or separate the one individual from another. You can see here on the picture to the right, that is our central office or our Donaldson administration building. That is the receptionist area where we have put up a plexiglass or sneeze guard shield so that our guests can separate themselves effectively in a socially distanced way from the receptionist. Also, if you look on that picture there to the far left, or not far left, but to the left, you'll see a freestanding sanitizing station. Each of our buildings have one of those, even the campuses in the initial entry of the building, and another will also be placed in the front office area. And as the campus redesign teams are working to determine how many kids are going to be serviced at the building and what the spacing is going to look like, we will determine how many more may be added to your campus. If you'll go to the next slide for us, please. As it relates to student services, so as you all know, technology is critical during these times, and we still have a goal of implementing a one-to-one device to each of our students. We want each student to have their own device in hand. We are working diligently to make that happen. We've ordered a number of devices and are awaiting those devices to come in. We will use the current devices that we do have to have another round of device deployment. As Don shared a moment ago, the student commitment forms were instrumental in capturing our students' needs, our families' needs, from choosing a learning option, whether they need transportation, and whether they need a device. So we are using that data to deploy another round of device distribution to be able to support our student needs. We are happy that we have the City of Houston's support. We are working in partnership and collaboration with them to close the digital divide. We recognize that there are areas in Aldine that do not have great internet connectivity or the infrastructure to support Wi-Fi access, and we know that is a challenge. We're thankful for the many companies and businesses that have offered Wi-Fi at no cost or low cost to many of our families, and many of our students and families are taking advantage of that opportunity because we do have a limited supply of hotspots. And so we will make certain that those devices get deployed in another round of distribution, and communication regarding that will come out shortly. Transportation, what is that going to look like? We know that many of our learners need to ride to school, need to ride the bus to school. So we're going to make certain that when they enter the bus, they're going to get on the bus with their face covering. And upon entering the bus, they're going to make certain that they sanitize their hands. And then what is it going to look like? Am I going to sit by myself? Is it going to be 3 of us in a seat? We're planning at this time to have 1 student sitting in each seat. But again, this information will be finalized once we get the final numbers and looking at how many students need actual transportation. The buses will continue to undergo a specific cleaning regimen after each of the routes. And at the end of each day, the buses will go through a deep sanitation cleaning as well. Child nutrition, are we still going to be able to serve our students and our families? Absolutely. Curbside meal distribution has proven to be very successful. We're thankful that our child nutrition team has been on the front lines since March, since this pandemic started, making certain that our students and families continue to receive the meals that they need. So we plan to expand curbside meal distribution for the first 3 weeks, knowing that we are going to be all remote during that time period. After that, we will make the necessary adjustments to be able to be responsive to meeting the feeding needs for students being serviced on campus and serviced remotely. Additional ways to provide meals were shared earlier today in our principals meeting, and that could be everything from meals on wheels, meaning in a cart being delivered to classrooms, to eating in the cafeteria in the socially distanced way. So there will be multiple ways for students to continue to receive meals, so we don't want parents to worry about that part. Here is just a quick visual so that you can see what a school bus could look like. We are, of course, taking into consideration the CDC guidelines and all of the decisions that we're making. But at the end of the day, we know that we have to do what's best for Aldine ISD in ensuring that our students are getting to school safely. When possible, we're going to try to open the windows on the bus to increase circulation. We're also telling parents, if possible, encouraging them to transport their student to school. That is an option as well. But at the end of the day, we recognize that many families will need to utilize transportation, and we want them to know with confidence that their student will ride to school safely.
Good afternoon. As Dr. Alfred Stevens said, there are many enhancements regarding the sanitation and cleaning of our facilities, as well as ensuring that our staff are abiding by our safety protocols. We recognize that when students return to school, it will look different this year. And we are now limiting visitors in an attempt to mitigate and reduce the spread of COVID-19. And we want to ensure that we're in alignment with the local health protocols coming from the CDC, TEA, as well as our city and county public health experts. Please know that our policy will be that all staff and all students in grades pre-K through 12 will wear face coverings when on buses, hallways, common areas, and when social distancing is not feasible, including in the classroom to the extent it is developmentally appropriate. Exceptions will be made on a one-to-one basis for those that have a documented medical condition, and those will be, again, very individualized. There are many mitigation strategies that we are engaging in as staff are on campuses for essential tasks. Things like daily self-screenings right now that staff are engaging in for symptoms. We are going to be following TEA recommendations regarding student pre-screenings before coming on campus, as well as following all of the recommendations for hand hygiene and limiting facility access. You could go to the next slide, please. So as far as response to cases, we have a district incident reporting protocol that is tracking our reported cases of close contact, those that are symptomatic, and those that are positive test for COVID. If the district is notified that an employee or when a student returns has a positive test, we will be engaging in contact tracing to identify and notify close contacts for possible quarantine and isolation. notification, communication to parents or students or employees who had that close contact will be done, and we will also be in contact or have been in contact with the Harris County Public Health Department. Our protocols are in place for staff, and we are working to have these protocols and ensuring the safety of all of our students. Again, we are dramatically limiting visitors to our buildings. As you know, they have been closed to all but essential tasks. Visitors at this time are managed through the principal or other departments that must be on the campus. Again, going back to our core beliefs that we want to prioritize the safety of all of our community. Next slide. And that is Miss Reed.
Well, let me tell you, I was working fast and furious trying to answer your questions, but I appreciate all of them. It shows that you guys are really engaged and concerned about coming back to school and want to make sure that we are addressing and thinking through each of the issues you may have. So we will get to cover some of those Q&A, but I will tell you that there's no way possible we will be able to address each one of them individually or out loud. And so hopefully by the time I finish, you know where you can send your questions, and we will continue to work to answer those. Earlier this year, we adopted an academic calendar in February, and after much discussion, we decided that our academic calendar should stay the same. Many districts around us were reviewing their calendar and deciding to make a difference, to make a change. And we determined that we would move forward with having an academic calendar that we thought met the goals of our district, identified PD dates, and even had time built in for breaks. The calendar we have has some additional built-in hours should there be a need to cancel classes because of weather or because of health reasons. So I do want to remind everyone here, and those of you who have asked this question in the comments, school will be held virtually from August 17th until August 7th. That is the decision that we have in front of us right now. But as Dr. Goffney said earlier, it's important that we continue to consider all of the things that are happening around us, the additional guidelines, the supports, information that's coming from the health organizations, as well as the things that are happening in our community. We do know and are aware that many of our schools reside in some of the zip codes that have been impacted at the highest level. And that is one of the things that led us to make a decision to ensure that we would work virtually for at least the first 3 weeks of school. For those of you who are wondering, your reporting date, pre-service begins on August 6th. Dr. Davis's team and Dr. Rohde's team are also working to ensure that all professional development that is offered should be done virtually. And if there are some cases where virtually doesn't accommodate the needs of the training, then social distancing guidelines and other things would be followed. As a reminder, right now we are operating at level 1, Dr. Goffney, which is red for the county. We are following their guidelines, which means there are people in our buildings, there are people who have access to our facilities. Those who have been, who are able to access our facilities have been given permission and are there to complete assigned and essential tasks. As you know, there are things that have to happen behind the scenes for work and learning and for us to continue to get paid. So you can't do everything virtually. Some things have to be done in a building. So I want to just give a special shout out to those of you who have been working virtually and those who have been working in the office to complete those essential tasks. So our academic calendar looks that way. Next slide, please. Okay, another question that I saw in the chat and I want to remind you of is that in February, when we started talking about COVID or coronavirus, we created a page, www.aldineisd.com/COVID, and it allowed us to put all of the information related to health alerts. Whenever we announce the closing of a school, whenever we announce changes to the meal service. We kept them all in one place. We've created a similar location where if you have any questions about what is happening related to Return to Learn, you can go to this page. If you go to the home page, right in the corner, there is an icon that says Return to Learn. When you click on it, you'll be able to see core beliefs, the learning models breakdown. We still have a video that tells the difference between learning on campus and learning at home. We also have some back to school resources. And then if you'll go to the next slide. We also have a frequently asked questions area. And so after each one of our town halls, as we receive questions through our principals meetings or questions that have come to us, we update our FAQs to answer as many questions as possible. There are times where you may see a question on social media and then we answer it, or we're publicizing a new piece of information. Know that if you go back to this reentry page, the information is there. If you have any questions or you want to share with parents or students or even your fellow teachers who ask those questions, the information's there. We have these subject areas, and as we continue to morph and change and get additional questions, we will add additional topics and questions to those, answers to those questions. Next slide. The best place for you, right now, as you know, our buildings are closed with very limited access. And so unfortunately, there is not someone able to answer the phone, but you have questions, you have concerns, as do the parents that you serve. And so we've created a tool called Let's Talk, where we're able to immediately answer those questions that you have. Now, what I've seen over time is that some of those questions are very specific to you as a person or your situation. We may direct you to an individual person, but these, we do try to respond to these questions within 24 hours. What you do is if you would click on any of those areas, it gives you an option to choose which subject area. That question, comment, concern goes directly to the person that's responsible, and that person and their team try to respond within 24 hours. Next slide. So I just want to remind you that we finalized those commitment forms. We are working on a loaner device deployment. We go to the next slide. Is this the last one? And we're working to have meet the teacher and orientations and parent trainings to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of our families. If there are, I don't have anything else to share, but I am going to try to address some of these.
Shalia, Ms. Reed, just 1 second. We have one more, Dr. Vidal. He has some things to go over as well.
Yes, so as the presentation is being pulled up, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Javier Villarreal, and I am the Chief Human Resource Officer. And I know a lot of the questions have been coming in are related to the human resources side. And so I just wanted to make sure to get some time in front of y'all. If we go to the next slide, please. And as that, one of the main questions that keeps coming up is in regards to the CARES Act, or COVID Act, as some people call it. And so I want to, and I think there's just misunderstanding of that by some of the comments that I'm reading. So I want to clarify so that everybody understands that through the CARES Act, there's actually, that's the umbrella, and there's a couple of types of leave under there. But the questions that are coming in today are in terms of, what if I, as the employee, get or test positive for COVID? Do I have to take personal leave, or do I get COVID leave, and so forth? And so so that everyone can understand that an employee is eligible for 80 hours of leave through the CARES Act, and that's just a one-time thing, and that is paid through the CARES Act. However, if there's time that needs to be paid beyond that, it is in our own personal sick leave or personal leave. And so I just wanted to make sure to talk about that because there's been a lot of questions regarding the CARES Act. So in terms of human resources side, I know there's been questions about substitutes as well. We are aware of that. We've actually been working with our campus principals, and one of the things that we were able to do is we are giving each campus a dedicated sub starting August 6th through September 30th to support the return to learn. And any campus that has an enrollment of over 1,100 students will get 2 dedicated subs. And the reason they're starting on August 6th, which is before the first day of school for students, is so that they are able to get the training and understand the support that they may need, whether it's through virtual or whether after the first 3 weeks it is face to face. And so we want to make sure that they understand their function is to supplement instruction. And so on top of that, what Human Resources is always doing, we can go to the next slide, please, is we are collaborating with our schools office, working with our chief of schools, assistant superintendents, making sure that we meet the needs of our students. You heard earlier how surveys went out to parents and indicating whether they wanted to do learning at home or learning on campus. And so we're awaiting to get those final results so that we could start making decisions on which teachers are going to do what. But the first and foremost thing that we have to keep in mind is we must meet the needs of our students. And so that's what our role is. And so we're going to make decisions based first and foremost on that. You've heard about the first 3 weeks of instruction being virtual for all. That is correct. And again, some of the questions have come in. What does that mean? Well, those first 3 weeks mean that if you as a teacher want to do or want to lead your instruction from home, you're more than welcome to do that. However, if you feel more comfortable coming into the building because you have resources and you feel that's the best place for you, you are also going to be allowed to come into the building and teach virtually from there. Again, beginning September the 18th, that's when right now we're saying that our teachers will be leading instruction from an Aldine building, whether you're doing your learning at home or learning on campus. September 8th, after Labor Day, is the day that we're expecting all of our teachers to return to the building and teach. Again, that's subject to change depending on things that are happening with COVID at the time. Next slide. The other thing, lots of questions about pre-existing conditions, or someone may need accommodations. It's extremely important for everyone to understand that if you do have accommodations or need accommodations or have any pre-existing conditions, you need to communicate with our benefits department. And so the email address that you see on the screen is our Director of Benefits, Lamika Martin. You can email her directly. We're also working on getting a specific email account that we will publish later and email to everyone to let everyone know if you do need to email accommodations and so forth, this is where you do so. Ms. Martin, she's going to respond to everyone's email and provide the employee the process regarding your request for accommodations. And then a committee is going to look at all of these accommodations that are being requested, and then we're going to need to make some decisions because, as I said when I first started, we need to make sure that we're addressing and meeting the needs of all of our students. And then what I also want everyone to understand is we all have a tendency to go straight to our supervisor and ask questions or inform them of anything. Please keep in mind that you simply informing your supervisor that you need an accommodation does not guarantee that you're going to get that accommodation or that they're able to even approve that. That's why it has to go through our benefits department. And we want to keep it that way because our supervisors are not the experts in the benefits world or even through laws and FERPA, HIPAA, and things like that. So please make sure that although you may tell your supervisor, you are still required to inform our benefits department. And with all that being said, last slide, please. I want to talk about it. I sent out an email this morning about our employee assistance program. I can't emphasize enough the benefits of having an employee assistance program, or EAP, for all of our employees, and it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And not only is it available to all of our employees, whether you do participate in our medical plans or any of our benefits, you still qualify for our EAP. But not only do our employees, their children up to the age of 26, whether they're living with you at home or outside your home, they would also qualify to utilize our EAP. And through there, you can get some counseling, some emotional support, identity theft services, I mean, which is beyond the COVID, but I mean, there's a lot of things that you can utilize from EAP. And to access that, I have the information on the screen. However, I want to remind everyone an email was sent out this morning regarding all of this, and also some additional resources for social and emotional support. I know we do a lot of talking about social and emotional learning for our students, but we also understand that as adults, it affects us as well. So I just wanted to make sure to get this information to everyone, since a lot of these questions were being asked. Thank you.
And I would like to share with you some information regarding updates to our dress code and standardized dress policy for both staff and students. So to begin with, we recognize the fact that this is our new normal. We want our staff to look professional and also be comfortable while teaching. And we also know that staff are going to be more visible because many of you will be teaching from your homes. So it's sort of like a video camera in your classroom. Anyone can peek in and see what's there. So there will be certain etiquette as far as what your work environment, your dress should look like when you are interacting with students online. But we have updated our dress code policy to allow staff to wear jeans and a t-shirt for both remote and face-to-face instruction. The t-shirt, we asked to have an Aldine ISD or campus logo, and that we still remain professional at all times. So there will be guidelines as far as no frayed or holes, etc. Because we believe it's important for our students to immediately recognize the healthcare professionals that are on campus, we want to reserve the scrubs as an attire for our nurses. This is an approved attire for our nurses, and again, we want to reserve that for those healthcare professionals only. If you can move on to the next slide, please. As far as updates to our standardized dress for students, I want to share with you that the standardized dress requirement, or the uniforms, is being suspended for this school year. We are going to be posting information as far as appropriate dress guidelines for students. That will be in policy for when they return, but we recognize the fact that many of our families are experiencing financial hardships right now. And we believe that this is one way for us to ensure that our families aren't feeling an extra burden to go out and find specific colors or uniforms. Again, our face mask policy is here, and the face mask policy will state that they may be of solid color, they may be patterns but free of political or derogatory statements, they may include the school or district logo, and they may be disposable face masks. All of this will be posted in our in the updated student code of conduct, as well as the dress and grooming guidelines for both staff and students. All right.
Okay, thank you for that. We still have several questions in the chat. We have scheduled this meeting for 2 hours. I'm sorry, for 1 hour, not 2 hours, 1 hour, and we're nearing the 2 o'clock hour. We have about 5 minutes, and so I do want to just look at a few questions that continue to come up. One of those is, are we going to test or require testing for our staff members before they return to campus? And the answer to that is no. However, we are continuously working with our community partners, the county, as well as the city to ensure that there are testing sites in Aldine so that students, families, and staff have access to testing. I do know that our health insurance allows us to have testing, and Ms. Martin and the human resources team can make that information available on how you can qualify for testing, and we'll make sure to put that as a FAQ. The other question is, another question that continues to come up, is making sure Dr. Alfred Stevens supplies as far as paper towels, soap, and hand sanitizer in bathrooms. Can you just address that question?
Paper towels and soap will be in bathrooms. There's also a question about sinks that are in classrooms that perhaps there was no soap or what have you. So we will be working with the campus design teams to make certain that soap and paper towels are in those classrooms as well. And Ms. Reed, can you repeat the last part of the question? Soap, paper towels, and was it sanitizer?
So hand sanitizer, just the supplies in classrooms and bathrooms, ensuring there's enough.
Yes, so sanitizer will be in every classroom as well. So remember, we want to encourage frequent hand washing. So we want to make certain that as we think about our rotations and our schedules, that our students and our staff as well have the opportunity to visit the bathroom to wash their hands appropriately. But yes, every classroom, as part of PPE that was mentioned earlier, sanitizer, disinfectant, every classroom will have a supply of those items.
Dr. Alfred Stevens, can you speak to as well, because I've wondered about this, we are encouraging our staff and students to wash their hands for 20 seconds. And we know that some of our sinks have timers, and I'm sure you've been in public places and you try to wash you got to keep pressing. Oh, can we change those timers? Do you know?
Good question. So what we are going to do is look at the setting of that sink timer. It's a setting that we are hopeful that we will be able to adjust. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Even when I wash my hands in Buc-ee's, the sink turns on for a certain amount of time and then it turns off. And we've received feedback that in some of the bathrooms that may be 3 to 5 seconds. And so knowing that the importance of hand washing, yes, we are absolutely, I've written that down and we'll get with the team to see how that adjustment can be made. Dr. Kaufman.
Ms. Rohde, this question comes in several times, several different ways. How will employees be notified if a student or staff member has tested positive for COVID, and what will the notification look like? Who at each school is responsible for sending out the notification, and how will be notified when students test positive? Before you jump into that, I just want to remind everyone that a person's status related to if they're COVID positive or negative is not public knowledge, and it is our responsibility to ensure the privacy of our students and staff. With that being said, we do know that there is a health concern or a health concern of making sure that those who have come in contact are notified and those who may have come in contact are notified. So Ms. Brody, would you like to elaborate?
Yes, as I said earlier, our current protocols in place distinguish between close contact, those that have possibly been exposed, those who are symptomatic, and those who are confirmed positive. We have different protocols for each of those, and based on whether or not a student or a staff member was exposed, notification is coming out via email at this time to those that may have been in close contact or exposed. Our students at this time, as you know, they are not on campus. When they are on campus, we are going to have our nurses will be leading the charge as far as assessing the symptoms of our students, ensuring that there are isolation rooms and protocols in place so that we can mitigate whether further spread if that is possible, and then to do the contact tracing that is required. We will then communicate out in the best way in which our parents and our students can receive it. We recognize the fact that approximately 50% of our parents right now have emails that are in our home access center. And so we are encouraging as many of our families to update this so that our communication methods can be more expedited when we are face-to-face and on campus. So those are some of the many ways that we are trying to respond and communicate with those cases.
Okay. So as we mentioned, this recording along with others will be posted on the district website. We appreciate your time and your concern and your questions, and know that if we weren't able to answer each one of them individually, we will review them, and any of the big broad buckets will be placed on the frequently asked questions. There are several of you who have questions about HR related issues that are specific to you individually. As Dr. Villarreal shared, it's best to communicate directly with the benefits office related to your issue. There's no way to broadly give guidance for individual situations. And you know, we scheduled an hour, and I hope that you have found the hour beneficial. We will continue to offer these, and we'll continue to update you as soon as we can and as we know. But unfortunately or unfortunately or fortunately, we are in this together. It's going to take each one of us to make it through this, to ensure that we're able to educate the 67,000 students that we're responsible for. And as Dr. Goffney shared, our core beliefs mentioned very early up, the very first one says safety is important, and that's safety of our students and our staff. So know that when we have questions, know that when we have meetings and planning sessions, staff safety is at the top of the list. But there are no easy answers, and as you know, more information is coming and changing every single day. So I encourage you to continue to stay posted to our district website, stay focused on our social media, and if you have questions, reach out and contact, and someone will be in touch with you. Many of you may have received a notification that says that the office is closed or someone is not there to immediately answer. That does not mean that they have not received your email. It means that they are maybe not there immediately, but we will get to everyone's questions. Thank you for your patience. As our mayor says, mask up and stay safe.